Hi, Betsy Kehoe from the Kehoe Team at Keller Williams Realty. We decided to take February's interview outside. We're at Castle Hill, actually the Bancroft Castle in Groton, a beautiful, beautiful location. I'm here with Jeremy Madore from Madore Photography. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So, Jeremy, tell me how you got started in photography.
Photography. I got started in photography at the age of, I think, like 12 or 13 years old. I got my first camera for a birthday. And I was appointed as the family photographer for years. I never pursued it professionally up until just about 12 years ago or so, because I didn't think it was actually something that I could do well at a profession for. And
Sure.
so my interests were actually with computer design, programming and things of that nature, all technology-based stuff, which has suited me today. But about 12 years ago, I shot a wedding for a friend because she saw my snapshots that I had taken for the family and everything. And the wedding results turned out significantly better than what she was anticipating. And then, of course, that rolled into the next wedding. And up until now, I've done about 200 weddings. I'm no longer doing weddings because real estate's really caught my eye. But I've been doing real estate now for about 7 years and built up a big team. We've got 8 people now. So it's a full-time thing. And it definitely threw me for a loop because I didn't expect that the profession could be as well invested as I am with it. You know, to me, it was always just a hobby, and eventually it just kind of came out that hobbies can be good to be professions,
Sure. No, that's great. I can certainly tell you that Jeremy's photos that we use, and as a listing agent, I'm very particular about the photos that we want to have for our sellers, and they're very professional. They get the photos to you right away. But one of the more interesting things that Madore Photography does are drone videos, and we do those for some of our more unique properties. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted Jeremy to speak to you today, to tell you a little bit about how he got into drone photography.
Yeah. So drones have been semi-popularized for just about 5 to 6 years now. Mm-hmm. About 4.5 years ago, the FAA decided to get involved and started limiting what we were allowed to and not allowed to do. And so that really created kind of a rift in the drone community where people were just using them as a hobbyist, just back to the whole hobby versus profession discussion. Mm-hmm. And so people were looking at it and say, it's just a toy in the air. And the fact of the matter is the FAA didn't really like that. So when I saw drones starting to be used for real estate on the West Coast, it hadn't even started happening on the East Coast yet. I got involved. And I started educating myself by going on YouTube and a variety of other sources on how to fly them properly. Because number one is safety. We need to make sure that we're not doing anything boneheaded that would ruin the reputation of our clients.
All right, so there are privacy issues?
Oh yes, there's a lot of issues. So not just privacy as far as neighbors are concerned, but there's also legal ramifications. Like we're not allowed to have an altitude of greater than 400 feet. We have to limit our altitude.
I didn't know that.
Which generally isn't a problem for real estate because we're not usually having to encapsulate such a large land mass where it's an issue. Mm-hmm. But there are situations where, if somebody has asked me to photograph a 200-acre parcel, you can't get that in one photograph. It's just not possible. So at that point, you just take multiple photographs and you kind of do what you can. So there's the FAA requirements. You can't fly too close to airports. There's a 5-mile radius for major airports. We don't have that out here, so we don't have to worry too much about that.
Right.
But there are still some considerations, like Hanscom down in Concord, Lexington area. We can't fly close to that. So when my Concord clients ask me to fly a drone, it's really situational.
Sure.
So.
Sure. No, that's great. So is the majority of your work for realtors, or do you have some
All
time?
All of it.
100%?
Yeah. The only stuff that isn't is our commercial work for business owners and things of that nature. That maybe accounts for maybe 3%, 4% of our total work per year. But the majority, like I'd say 96% is realtors.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me, just for that 3% of business owners, what might that be without naming any businesses?
Yeah, so a case in point would be like, I haven't done work for them, but Lawrence Academy, if they wanted some drone footage of their campus, or if Gibbet Hill wanted to have that same stuff done, they would call us up and ask us for those things. Now, for the part of Gibbet Hill, they have so many wedding photographers in here with their own drones, and they get all these free photos from their photographers. All they got to do is put a logo on the bottom and they call it a day. But Lawrence Academy, since they'd be using it more on a commercial basis or whatever, they'd want to have a licensed drone pilot in there, which is what I am,
right.
And who carries their own insurance policy, which I do. And they'd also want to be able to use their photos however they want without my logo on it. So at that point, they would hire somebody solely for their purposes.
So how do you actually get licensed? Well, what does that entail?
It's actually a very rigorous procedure. So there's a bunch of training courses that you can find online that'll help you prepare for the test that the FAA administers. But there's a flight school in Concord, actually, over on Baker Avenue,
okay.
And which is the complex right off of the Route 2 Rotary.
Yeah, near Paparazzi?
Yep. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. All right.
Yeah.
Point out restaurants.
That's where I go.
So anyway, long and short of it is you take the online prep exams. You do a lot of digging for information, and then you go take the test. And the thing about it is that the test is not a how to fly a drone test, and that's where there's an error with it. It's a do you know your legal limitations as to what you can and cannot do, when and when you can't, and such like that. So there's a lot of it's a test designed for basically people who are book smart, not for people who know how to fly. So
how do you learn how to fly? Like you said, YouTube and things like that?
Yeah, you take some pointers based off of some YouTube videos or just research, and a lot of it is just hands-on learning. If you can't, you need to invest in a drone yourself. You need to just really kind of start it in your own backyard. Learn how it operates, what your stopping distance is, how long it takes to get going, and just how to handle the controls and manipulate the joysticks, because it's not very intuitive on day one. It's something that you grow into. It's like driving a car.
Sure.
Some people are better natural drivers than others, just because they just have it in them, that
right.
It's just kind of an extension of themselves. And this has become an extension of me. I've flown it well over, it's probably 700, 800 times by now.
That's amazing.
So,
what is the cost typically for a drone?
The cost for this drone setup when I bought it new a year ago was about $1,500,
Okay.
and that doesn't include the screen, which is the smartphone. We connect the smartphone to the device, and that actually doubles as our viewing screen, so we can see what the drone is seeing.
Oh.
Yep.
That is great. We'll have to get a shot of that. So with the drone photography, do you do still photos as well?
Yep. So when we're doing the drone photography, so if somebody were to hire us for a drone without specifying whether it's photos or video, by default we just provide photos. If somebody's looking for drone video, they'll usually request that, or we'll question them as to what they meant by drone, because different people have different understandings of the word.
Sure.
But drone photos are our most popular add-on product to our photography product for homes. And then drone video is our most popular add-on for our video product. So like if we're doing an interior or an exterior video of the property, normally they'll ask us to do drone as well, so that they can get that drone video footage as well.
Oh, that's great. So how does the FAA regulations work across state lines? So say you wanted to do drone footage in New Hampshire or Vermont. How does that work?
Yep. FAA is a national thing. So if you're licensed with the FAA, you can fly the drone wherever you're allowed to fly it. And normally, so the app that I referenced before that we view our footage through, it'll actually let you know whether or not you're allowed to take off in the area that you're taking off in. So if there's a restriction for flight in that area, it'll actually tell you can't fly, or it'll say you need to have authorization, please click on this button to apply for authorization, and then of course it'll either grant you through or deny you. So
that's handy.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, it's a good fail-safe. So this drone manufacturer is called DJI. And it's the most popular drone manufacturer right now worldwide. And they've built their software so that it accommodates for the FAA versus trying to fight them.
Right.
And the reason for that is so that their product isn't used in ways that it's not supposed to, and they're not held liable for what the FAA has for rules.
No, that's great. So typically when you fly the drone, what are the conditions that are optimal for you?
So there's not really many conditions that aren't good for flying. If it's too blustery, So if there's wind gusts or heavily sustained winds, it's not ideal to fly. It's dangerous to fly because the
Right.
drone could actually, in theory, take off with the wind. They're very lightweight, so they don't have a
Right.
lot of mass and they don't stay put very easily. So they're very influenced by wind gusts and things of that nature. So,
Have you ever lost a drone?
Yep. I'm going on my 4th drone.
Oh,
So
not bad. How many years have you been doing this?
4.5.
All
So
right, not
one per
bad.
year.
One per
now
year.
I haven't lost. I've only lost one drone.
Okay.
All the other ones have been recovered. Normally, what actually causes my drone to crash is actually very fine twigs and branches, especially
Ooh.
during the winter.
Okay.
So because you can't see them on the screen
Right.
very easily because the resolution for the screen is more of just a preview. It's not really a really fine-tuned
Sure.
resolution. And so during the winter, what ends up happening, of course, is that with defoliation for the trees, you can't see it on your screen very easily.
Right.
And so as a result, what happens is the propellers are actually made out of plastic, and they'll shred very quickly. And so
Oh.
what ends up happening when they shred, of course, the whole thing plummets to the ground. And in a frozen ground situation like this, it's not very friendly for the drone.
I would imagine now.
So
Yeah.
so it can sustain some falls without having too much damage, but mainly it's the cameras themselves that are fragile and they'll rip off or they'll damage the camera to the point where you can't use it anymore. And the cost of replacing a camera on one of those things is around $600. And at that point, you might as well just invest in a newer drone.
Sure. No, that's great. I just know because I know just about everybody in our office uses your services, and I know it's been very, very well received. Clearly, 90% of your business is realtor, so
Yep.
I'm so happy that you've been so successful. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how do they reach you?
Sure. The easiest thing to do would be to go to our website, which is madorephotography.com. That's MADORE photography, normally spelled out, .com. And on there's, of course, our contact forms. We have our social media links on there. Or they can give us a call at 978-751-9116. That's our office line. Susan, my receptionist, who is also my mother, FYI.
Be nice.
Will be... Hi, Mom. Will be the one to pick up the phone and get back to people. And it's a very straightforward booking process that we have. People normally just simply ask us, what our availability for a property is. We give them our calendar availability, and then they just pick from a couple of times that we offer, and then we go from there. And the turnaround time, like you had mentioned at the beginning, is very quick. We get photos back to people by 10 a.m. the following morning after the shoot.
That's great, let me tell you.
And
for
then
realtor,
video
yeah.
is usually about 48 to 72 hours following the shoot, depending on the complexity of the video.
That's great. And I bet your website is just amazing
Yeah.
with photos and examples of your work.
Yeah, the portfolio is online. I do need to update it for last year's work because we definitely achieved a level of work last year that we hadn't seen before, both from a quantity and a quality standpoint. And we've undergone some quality changes on the back end. As we've grown as a company, I've always kept my eye focused on the quality that we're delivering to people, versus a lot of the national chains or the larger shops, they'll sacrifice quality for quantity a lot of times.
Sure.
And we try to really keep that on the minimum side of things. I don't want to be known as a quantity-based shop. I want to be known as quality first with quantity second.
Well, I can definitely vouch for you. The quality is just amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, and you had mentioned earlier on that you have 8 employees, and you have people that operate the drones. Tell us a little bit about the still photography and whether or not you do use cameras or use the drone to do that.
Sure. Okay. So we have 5 photographers total, 2 editors and my administrator. For the photographers, when it comes to taking a photo of the interior or the exterior of a home, we just refer to them as land cameras, as opposed to the drone. And
Right.
they're ground-based cameras on a tripod, and we use professional Sony a7 III cameras is the series that we use. They're $3,000 cameras, and so they definitely generate a significantly better quality than the drone does. And then pursuant to the drone, 3 of us are licensed, myself, Keith, and Crystal. Crystal is in the Merrimack Valley. Keith is in Fitchburg. I'm in Lunenburg. So we cover this territory out here.
That's
So-
great. And I meant to ask you too, where are you based out of?
We're officially based in Lunenburg.
Okay.
That's where my home office is. We don't have a brick and mortar location due to the fact that nobody comes to us, we go to them. So it's not really necessary right now. But as we continue to grow, I am eyeing an office space so that we are able to come together as a team a little bit easier, because it's very difficult sometimes meeting each other and getting a team environment going because of our distance that we're spread apart.
You can only do so much at a coffee shop, right?
Yeah, you really can, right? So, I mean,
No.
in a couple of Fridays, we're getting together for our delayed holiday party down at Via in Worcester, which I love Via.
Oh, Via's
fantastic.
amazing food.
Yeah, it really is. And so, we do that a couple times a year. We get together for barbecues or whatever. But other than that, we don't really have a team space that we just, go back to every day.
No, that's great. Before we have you show your drone flying, if you could tell us a little bit more about the regulations of the drone, about how close you can fly it to things and things like that.
So number one, you can't fly it over people. Now, if it's a group of people that are all consenting to it being done, then that's fine. But as far as like crowds or whatever, like some things that happened at weddings, and I touched upon the drone pilots at weddings, is that they actually fly the drone during the wedding over the crowd, and that's actually illegal. And so, you could be fined for that by the FAA. The other thing that you have to do is you have to keep it in line of sight of you at all times. So if you can't see the drone, then you're not operating it in a manner that's considered safe. And so the FAA is against that as well.
Okay.
You also need to keep it away from flying over traffic at all times. You can fly over roadways just so long as there's no active traffic underneath it. And so these are all the technical considerations that the FAA requires us to obey. I can't say for certain that there haven't been times where I've pushed the rules, but the fact of the matter is you have to maintain awareness and safety at all times.
Right.
And you have to really make sure that what you're doing is not just off the cuff. You need to be deliberate with what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not flying in a safe manner that keeps our profession alive. FAA is already talking about releasing a whole new set of rules in the next 3 years that is going to make my profession even more challenging than it already is.
You better get moving, chop chop.
Right, exactly. And so it really hinders our desire to grow further for the drone department.
Sure.
Or at least figuring out how that whole thing goes, because what Joe Schmo does across the street does affect me when they're launching a drone and using it in a manner other than it's intended. So.
Well, I know all the work that you've done for the Kehoe Team and all the other realtors in our office has been above board, and it's just been great, and it's a great marketing tool. And I don't understand why more people don't use it, and we're very lucky to have found you, because you're great to work with as well. So let's get... sorry.
One thing that you did touch upon earlier is that you use it situationally for certain listings, right? And that's one thing I do want to talk on.
Sure.
Is that it does need to be the right listings, right? I've had clients that hire drone all the time, every single listing.
Sure.
And for them, it's just a marketing tool that they use to help wow the customer, and I totally get that. But when it comes to properties that have scenic views or area amenities, like if you're near a golf course, or if you're near a lake, or if you're near a mountain, those are items that the drone can capture very easily from the air, while also highlighting the house and highlighting the nearby amenity at the same time in the photograph. And it's a really fantastic image when it especially when you tie that photograph into the MLS description, where you're talking about the nearby amenity that you're also showing.
Sure. So you're saying next to Commuter Rail is not advisable?
It depends, actually. So I mean, if you're downtown, downtown Fitchburg maybe, or if you're near the Commuter Rail and your amenity is actually the Commuter Rail, yeah, it's perfectly advisable.
Sure.
But if you're just in the middle of an average neighborhood without any specific amenity outlined, probably not the best money spent. So it really depends on what the features of the property are and what you're trying to highlight. And as always, they can just talk to one of the licensed drone pilots in our company for guidance, because we're not here for upselling. We're here for guiding our customers to get the value that they need in order to get the property sold. So that's great. Thank you so much again for being with us. So let's take a look at this in motion, if we could. Yeah, we're going to want to stand back.
Okay.
You're fine, Jessica. That's fine. So the startup process is very simple. You just pull the sticks inwards and downwards, and what you do is you just take a look at your screen so you can figure out what you're at as far as your map location. So the heads up display is actually really neat. So it'll show you a Google Maps layouts so that you know what your streets are around you and things of that nature.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think
So it's
Jessica's
really
trying to
neat.
get a photo.
So go ahead
That's
and grab that.
great.
Okay. So when you start up the drone, it actually records your home location, which is what the H icon is. The arrow itself is actually the aircraft itself, and the direction that it's pointed in. So it does know that at all times. And so the home location is important because it actually determines for itself its GPS coordinates, so that if it loses connection with the controller, it'll actually return to its home location instead of just hovering there indefinitely and
Gotcha.
eventually crashing because of the battery, right? Battery flight time, by the way, is about 25 minutes on
25
this.
minutes. Okay.
In cold weather conditions like today, it's reduced drastically, just around 15 to 20 minutes. But in windy conditions, it further reduces it and such. So,
Sure.
so we're going to go ahead and take off. So if you want to get a little closer, feel free to get closer. You're fine. No, you're fine.
This is a joke.
I was telling you otherwise. All right. So we're just going to give it a little bit of lift and a little bit of forward direction to keep it away from Jessica. Safety first, right?
Yes, always.
And so we're just going to go ahead and go straight up. Now I've gotten to the point where I'm able to navigate the drone without looking at the drone. I am in line of sight of it, so if I need to check my position, I can do that very easily. But I'm not wearing any specialty headgear that would allow the screen to be up here, so that way I'm able to see at any given time what I'm doing. There's some people that use like specialty goggles that has like the screen on the goggle itself.
Right.
And it's dangerous because you can't do both jobs. So
Right.
you need to have a visual observer, so someone with you, like whether it be a partner or the agent or whatever, who's helping you determine that you're still in safe conditions.
Gotcha.
Right. So we're just going to go ahead and circle the castle here. This is just a standard, very simple swoop. We're just kind of using it as a point of reference in the center. Now, one of the things that you need to do is make sure that you're not flying into objects around you, obviously.
Right.
And so there's some sensors on the actual device itself, on the drone, that will tell you when you're close to something. They are not foolproof, especially during the winter, like I said before, with the branches being so fine. It's one of those things where even the sensors sometimes don't pick up what you need to pick up. So I'm just behind the castle now. So I'm just going to actually create a little bit more lift. Look away from the castle. I'm going to look down towards Gibbet Hill. Hi, Gibbet Hill. Lawrence Academy in
great.
the distance. And so one of the things that this does is it allows you to control the angle of the camera. So this wheel right over here will actually let me pivot downward with the actual camera on the device.
Wow.
And so I can look down, I can look up, I can look left and right. So we're actually just going to get over.
Do you have vertigo?
No,
That's
I
good.
don't. But I can see how somebody might.
I do.
You
so,
do? Okay.
Yeah.
Is this messing with
No,
you?
not at all.
Okay. All
This
right.
is great.
Does it tell you how high it is?
Yep. So right now we are at a altitude. It bases it off of where we started. Okay. So that's altitude 0. We're at an altitude of 226 feet right now.
It's so high. 400 feet didn't seem like a lot until I saw it.
Oh, 400 feet is actually very considerable, to be honest. So I'm actually going to bring it down, and we're going to play a little bit of a trick here. So we're going to actually descend into the turret to get some nice footage in there. So I've actually, there we go. There we are. So now I'm just going to go ahead and come back up. So there's enough airflow in the turret to not have to worry about the drone drifting a whole lot.
Oh, I see it.
Um,
I see it.
But there's been situations in the past where I've been in very challenging environments where the wind is pushing the drone around a little bit more than comfortable. And you have to really be careful, because if you're close to objects like that, it'll wreck the drone.
Thank you
Yep.
so much for your time. This is amazing.
Very welcome.